NFL draft nerds, we are on to day 2 of the 2025 NFL draft, rounds 2 and 3, Friday night. We're getting you ready for that with the top available prospects. Going to have to get this one out quickly, so we're not going to have any background graphics, anything like that, but just roll through the top prospects available at each position. So starting with the quarterback position, I think Shedeur Sanders should have been QB2 in this draft. No, he might not have some of the traits that Jackson Dart has, but I do think he's a more accurate quarterback. I think he's a more poised quarterback. I think he's done more NFL things as a quarterback than Jackson Dart did. I think Shedeur Sanders should be one of the top picks off the board on night number 2. When you look at the rest of the quarterbacks, guys that I think really belong on day 2, I think it's Jalen Milroe and Tyler Shough. And for me, if you want to find somebody who you think needs to start like next year, maybe you go Tyler Shough. But if you want to take a swing for the fences and potentially get somebody who can really be a dynamic quarterback threat at the next level, Jalen Milroe has a lot of talent, and there's flashes with the arm, unbelievable athlete, great runner. So those are kind of your top options. I don't look at Quinn Ewers or Kyle McCord or Riley Leonard, any of these guys as real day 2 options, although it's very possible that some of these guys could come off the board on day 2. On to running back, I mean, it's an incredibly loaded running back class. We've talked about that. To me, looking at the top 5 guys available, I do have TreVeyon Henderson as the top running back available. Complete back, right? And he's not the biggest or strongest, but he is powerful. 5'10", 202. He's a strong guy. He's a sturdy guy, but he's incredibly explosive. He's great in pass protection. He's a great receiver. If you want a true 3-down back, a dual threat type of guy who can also, absolutely hit the home runs, TreVeyon Henderson could be for you. At number 2 right now, and TreVeyon Henderson was my RB2 ahead of Omarion Hampton, who was RB3. I had no problem with him coming off the board, but it's really more of a stylistic choice. Caleb Johnson is my next back. I think Caleb Johnson, the sweet feet, the vision, the patience, also the strength and power that he brings to the field, I think he's going to be a really good running back at the next level. Love DJ Giddens, RJ Harvey. Both of those guys are incredibly explosive. RJ Harvey, more of the jitterbug type, but DJ Giddens, very explosive in his own right and very good size. Damian Martinez, one of my guys in this draft out of Miami. I think that he's going to prove to be a high-quality starting back who can play with a lot of power and agility. So those are some of the top guys available, but you could hear all sorts of names tonight. Quinshon Judkins, Cam Skattebo, Dylan Sampson, potentially Devin Neal, Jordan James. I mean, could Bashal Tutin sneak into the day 2 picture with his speed? It's possible. So could Jadon Blue. So there's just a number of names at the running back position to keep an eye on, but that's kind of my thoughts on the position. At receiver, Luther Burden is easily the top prospect on my board. I think he should have been a top 15 pick, top 10 pick, honestly. This is a guy who I think is being overthought in a big way. Same way Brian Thomas Jr. was last year. Brian Thomas Jr. fell to 23. He ended up being the most productive and prolific receiver out of all of them last year, and that was an incredible rookie class. I think Luther Burden has a chance to be that guy that's being slept on, because when you look at the physical profile and what he has done in college, it doesn't show anything that he can't do. I think that he was limited in this Missouri offense. He should be one of the top players off the board. You look at the Iowa State duo, Jaden Higgins, who's 6'4", 215 pounds. He can go up and get the football at an extremely high level. Then Jalen Noel, who is much smaller, right, more diminutive, but has plenty of mass and strength in his frame. I think that Jaden Higgins projects as an X receiver, but he can also be a power slot guy you can move around. He's a good route runner, a plus athlete at his size, pretty nuanced. And then Jalen Noel, he's extremely explosive, can be a vertical slot receiver and really stretch the field in a lot of different ways. I think you can play him at Z as well. Both of these guys come down with contested catches. Both of these guys, I think, project really well to the next level. I would say Kyle Williams, Jalen Royals, Jack Besh, that's kind of the next group up for me. I think that all 3 of them have different games, but all 3 of them can be very productive in their own right. I think Kyle Williams, the most loose athlete of the bunch and just tremendously nuanced getting off the line of scrimmage. I think Jalen Royals can kind of be that Luther Burden light, if you will. He's got all the explosiveness, strong hands, all the stuff you kind of need to succeed at the next level coming off of the foot injury. And he was very explosive off the line. 10-yard split. Jack Besh is the do-it-all, 6'2", 215-pound guy. Doesn't drop the football, catches everything, contested catch guy. Maximum effort in the run game. A few other guys to keep an eye on. Trey Harris, for me, is a little bit of a vanilla game. I don't see the very best athlete, but he's pretty advanced. He's got a ton of production on tape, so somebody to keep an eye on. Jalen Lane, incredibly explosive, undersized. Ty Felton has some length and a lot of productivity as a yak guy and deep down the field. Torrey Horton, a very balanced receiver. Elikai Manor, an unbelievably talented guy out of Canada by way of Stanford, played 2 years there and productive, but I think the arrow is pointing up for him. Savion Williams, is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? Is he an X factor? I have a hard time projecting him purely as a wide receiver. So those are kind of the guys I think, you're looking at day 2. Potentially Xavier Restrepo, depending on how teams feel about his testing and all that. I do think he belongs on day 2. We'll see. I also feel the same way about Tez Johnson, but unbelievably small. At tight end, there's a few guys to get fired up about. I think Terrence Ferguson, Mason Taylor are the top 2 guys left. Actually, Elijah Arroyo, excuse me. So you've got Elijah Arroyo, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson. I think this tight end class has the potential to have 4 really special guys. I think Terrence Ferguson can be a very good starting tight end. I think Gunnar Helm can be a good starting tight end. At worst, a tight end 2. Harold Fannin Jr., one of the more interesting ones. Strange athlete, incredibly productive at Bowling Green. Going to be fascinating to see how he's used. But I think Elijah Arroyo and Mason Taylor are going to end up being plus tight ends, receiving tight ends at the NFL level. I think Terrence Ferguson can be middle of the road starter or even better potentially. Same with Gunnar Helm. So those are guys to keep an eye on. At offensive tackle, to me the standout that's left at offensive tackle is Charles Grant out of William and Mary. He's the one I would be most excited to take a swing on because he has the best traits, and I think he has strong tape. I think you continue to develop him, and you could end up getting one of these small school standouts that ends up being an absolute star at the next level. But you've got Ariante Ursary, who I think he struggles with the lateral agility at tackle, but he is a behemoth. He's explosive. There's a lot of good tape mixed in with some bad, so you can kind of take that as it is. I think Ozzy Trapilo, he's a NFL bloodlines. I think that he has the baseline level of traits and a lot of fundamental technicality that can allow him to potentially be a starter. Anthony Belton and Cameron Williams are in a similar boat for me. Both of them are huge. Both of them are very athletic. I think they could both potentially play guard as well. Those are the guys I'm kind of looking at for day 2 here at tackle. Kicking it inside to the interior at offensive guard. Jonas Savaiinaea is going to come off the board at some point. There's just not a lot of humans that are as big and physically gifted as he is. There's a lot of good tape as well. I do worry about him giving up his chest. I wonder if he's going to play tackle, if he's going to play guard. I think he's more natural at guard, but he's got to clean up giving up his chest. There's no reason that should be happening as much as he does. Tate Ratledge, I think, is probably the best swing you can take at guard on day 2, quite honestly. Great athlete, great tape, plays the game the right way. Marcus Mbow, an interesting one. He could play center, he could play guard. He played tackle this past year at Purdue. Great athlete, some violent hands, snatch trap. He's got to get stronger. Maybe playing center might be the best path forward for him. I think Miles Frazier should come off the board as well. Out of LSU, that might be it at guard. Maybe you see Dylan Fairchild sneak in, maybe Jalen Rivers. I don't see much else there for guard on day 2. Interior offensive line at center, I think Jared Wilson certainly going to come off the board on day 2. You look at Seth McLaughlin coming off an injury out of Ohio State, potentially, but Jared Wilson's really the one that stands out in my opinion as a prospect who 6'3", 310, 1-year starter at Georgia, elite athlete, had great tape for a 1-year starter. Definitely a little bit of a ways to go from a fundamentals and technical standpoint, but again, really good tape for a 1-year starter. And I think that he projects to be an above average starting center, maybe even more than that at the next level. Maybe the deepest position group in this draft is the defensive tackle spot. Darius Alexander, I thought should have been a first round pick. He's a little bit older prospect, but an absolute beast when it comes to getting after the quarterback, when it comes to defeating his opponents. He studies the right way, prepares the right way. He's explosive. He's strong. He's got great length. I think Darius Alexander has everything it takes to be an impact interior defensive lineman. And then the list just goes on and on. If you're talking about penetration style guys, I think you're talking about TJ Sanders, Omar Norman Lott, Shamar Turner, Ty Robinson. Vernon Broughton has a little bit of that. Aeneas Peebles at only 282 pounds, certainly that three-tech style type of guy. Don't know if he's going to come off the board tonight. Looking at some bigger body type of guys, maybe run stuffers, Alfred Collins, Joshua Farmer, JJ Pegues. Obviously, Deone Walker is an enigma. Who knows how that's going to end up playing out, if he's even going to get drafted. And then I think that three guys that definitely will come off the board that are bigger boys, but also have some juice to them are Cam Jackson, Jamari Caldwell, Jordan Phillips. I love all three of them, and I'm excited to see where they end up landing. At linebacker, Carson Schlesinger was my LB1 in this class. I think he's a guy that projects really well to the next level. Great coverage player, and he does not miss tackles. Yes, he can clean up a little bit in terms of taking on, guards trying to get to the second level and all that type of stuff. But overall, the baseline traits, the athleticism, the understanding of coverage, the feet, Carson Schlesinger, to me, is one of the top prospects, bottom line. Demetrius Knight, more of a thumper. I think Chris Paul Jr., not the biggest guy, but and not an elite athlete, but I think the way he plays the game, the smarts he plays with, and the athleticism combined with that is going to allow him to be a good starter at the next level. Danny Stutzman, I think, is going to be a strong starter. Very good athlete. I don't think he is the quickest guy, the most lateral agility, but explosive in a straight line, plays the game the right way. I think these are guys you definitely look at, and maybe you see a Jeffrey Bassa, who's a good athlete out of Oregon, sneak in to day two as well. At edge, a lot of big names. I thought Donovan Ezraku should have come off the board in round one. I thought Nick Scorton should have come off the board in round one. We've got both the Ohio State kids who I think JT Tuimoloau should come off the board before Jack Sawyer. Certainly, he's got more physical traits. I think that he has more upside. He's a dirty work player, so you love that about him. How high can Femi Oladejo end up going out of UCLA after converting down from linebacker to edge and having a tremendous final year there and then stacking it? He's just done well every step of the way. So he's somebody who's certainly been a riser throughout the process. Jordan Birch, a big athletic edge out of Oregon, somebody who's definitely got some fans in the league. Landon Jackson, I think, projects as a starter, probably an edge too. Big edge who has some flexibility for his size. I think he's going to be a good football player. Braden Swinson has been a bit of a riser. Definitely knows how to get after the passer. Princely Umanmielen, another guy who can heat up the quarterback. I think Josiah Stewart did not test well, but he's going to end up being a day two pick because the tape is undeniable. He is explosive off the edge. He's got great speed, and he is somebody who, despite being undersized, sets a really hard edge, so a really fun player. I'd look for Ashton Gelati to crash the party as well, potentially on day two. If not, he'll be one of the top guys for day three. At corner, Will Johnson is my top available prospect. So hopefully somebody is able to take the risk that I guess is involved with his medicals, whatever it may be. I think Will Johnson is a fantastic cornerback prospect, but there's a lot of really good corner prospects. Savone Revel, who's coming off the ACL, I thought would have been a top 10 pick with his length and athleticism. Trey Amos, I thought could have been a first round pick as well. I think he's going to be a quality starter. Benjamin Morrison has had 2 hip injuries, which is concerning, but he has starter tape out of Notre Dame. Azareye'h Thomas, probably the best pure physical press corner at the line of scrimmage. Did not test all that well, but when you've got the length and the technical prowess he has at the line of scrimmage, I think you're going to find your way into a starting lineup for a team that wants to run a lot of press. Darian Porter, unbelievable length and athleticism, only really played corner. I mean, he used to play receiver, only really played corner at an extremely high level this past year. is a special teams ace, so that's something to keep in mind when it comes to his projection. I think Quincy Riley and Noel Williams, neither of these are the greatest athlete, but both of them I think are day 2 prospects. And then for me, Jacob Parrish is somebody who has gone under the radar and really belongs in the second round conversation. Doesn't have the greatest size, but he has enough length, explosiveness, in my opinion, to play outside or play nickel for you. He's fluid, he's quick, he's explosive. So somebody that I definitely think should sneak into round 2, but could be there in round 3. At safety, Nick Manwari is still on the board, who I think projects more as a box safety, but somebody you can do a lot of different things with. I just don't think you want him having to cover a lot of routes that you're talking about, maybe man-to-man coverage or routes that kind of test your lateral agility. But I think Nick Manwari, you can weaponize him and use him to attack with his size and explosiveness. Kevin Winston, Xavier Watts, Andrew Makuba, Jonas Sanker, big fan of all these guys. I think they're all very well deserving to go on day 2. And then really Billy Bowman's an interesting one for me because maybe the best coverage safety in the class, bar none, but really poor tackler right now. So that's something you got to foil if you are an NFL team looking to draft him. That will do it for this day 2 preview, just kind of going through some of the top players at each position heading into day 2. If you enjoy the content, if you enjoy the NFL draft, you're in the right place. All NFL draft all the time here at Rogue Football. It has been a marathon and a sprint over the last 16, 18 hours here, covering the Jaguars and covering the NFL draft for Rogue Football. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a good one.